Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's Carm Capriato. It is a CarmCast. You know, we've done this 105 times. It's just kind of a fun little show that I love to have and chat with some of my great friends. And occasionally, we actually talk about really good stuff that helps the industry. Actually, that's what I do. We're all here about advancing the aftermarket. You know, our legacy is to continue to bring you no nonsense content that you can rely on to enhance your own path to remarkable results. Hey, I got a great panel here today. I just would love to let you guys see who my guests are. It's Greg Buckley again. This is my power panel, and hopefully these guys. I have to send them a big check every month to pay them to be here, and so they said if the check continues, we'll show up. So thank God, you guys work for $5 and a bag of peanuts. I appreciate that. Greg Buckley, CEO of the 50-year young Buckley's Personalized Auto Care, Wilmington, Delaware. That's where your good friend, the president, hangs out, right?
Yeah, good old Joe. He lives about like 4 miles from the house. So
All right, just
yeah,
checking. So you must live in that Ritchie neighborhood.
that's as political as I'll be right now. So
All right, very good. Thank you. All right. Well, we won't blame you for anything, Greg.
okay.
Um, Bryan Rocky Kelley. Now, I just found out how the Rocky thing fits in.
It's Irish.
And
It's Irish.
that's right. Yeah. Owner of Valley Automotive Electric, Covington, Washington. Just the past chairman of Northwest Auto Care Alliance. Congratulations for helping make that merger happen, Bryan. And I called him Rocky because we were talking. We're going to talk about being healthy today. Okay, we're going to talk about being healthy. And he said he was up at 5 o'clock and he was at the gym punching. So he says he goes to a boxing gym. And so I immediately figured out Rocky. So it's not hard to figure out. Hey, if you're with us on social media, thanks for hanging out. You could put a comment, ask these guys anything, check in with your city. Love to have you. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. We're coming to you live from the Remarkable Results Radio podcast studio, in many times called the Carm Cave. Hey, a really neat piece of information. It's brand new today. I want to show you a brand new podcast we just released. It's from my friend Hunt Demarest. And many of you know that Hunt's a CPA with Parmelis, and his show is going to be called Business by the Numbers. And I know what's coming up. And this guy is all about helping you understand your financial statements, dig into certain expenses. And episode 1 released today, and so did episode 2. Episode 2 is about financial statement common sense issues that you face all the time. And on episode 1, I joined Hunt to talk about how exciting it was to have him in the Aftermarket Radio Network. So stuff is happening here. So guys, let's help the industry understand that you got to get up each and every day, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. But what you put in your body and the exercise that you do is so critically important. So I can't believe we're doing a little Jack LaLanne thing here, and I'm aging myself. Greg, you may know who that is. Bryan,
Yeah, I
you
do.
may not know.
Yeah.
All right.
I know.
An old TV exercise guy from years ago. But yeah, it's important to be healthy, eat right, exercise. Bryan, I commend you for getting up early every morning.
Yeah, it's if you don't do it, you'll feel it. And I just made a habit out of it over the years. And I as I was saying earlier, I've always been an early morning guy. So 4:30 was just kind of a natural time. And I went through periods where there was no workout. And I can tell you the difference, just health wise between spending a decade plus not working out and spending the better part of half a decade really actively working out. And it's amazing the difference it makes in energy. It's different in the mental acuity. It's different in just being able to get things done and really having a consistency to you. So I'm pretty excited to dive into this.
I know, Greg, you're a walker. I mean, you're always showing your exploits on Facebook. Occasionally, Greg and I will talk on the weekend while he's out walking. I know it's not the perfect time of the weather to be out doing long walks and fighting snow piles, but I, one of the things that I know about Greg is he loves to take his medicine. He's got a big picture behind him that reminds him of the medicine bottles that he has in a cabinet. Those are wine bottles, right?
Right. That's well, a glass or two a night of red wine is supposed to be very healthy for you. So, it's just a reminder. That's all. Just go in there
Thank you, Dr.
and,
Craig. I will. I always, I love my cab, and I always joked the fact that I wish I could get my doctor to write me a prescription for it, and then to walk into the liquor store with it and say, "Listen, I need a case of cab, doctor's orders."
that's a good one. But I think what Bryan does, he's up early, and I think a lot of shop owners, that do take their their physical, I guess, their health seriously. Like myself, I'm up early, and I try to get in, during the wintertime, maybe 12, 16 miles a week on a 4-mile trek, depending on weather. In the summertime, I can get up to maybe 24 because I can extend and go further. And then I'll get a little swimming in, and I'm trying to do a little bit more and more. And I also I do take a few really pretty cool I call them supplements, and that's, I guess, what they are. But the goal for me is to actually work from the inside out, and focus on kind of like your blood. I know, for me, taking care of the mitochondria, and all the cells that you have, and supplements that help that, and healthy eating and all that stuff, I think is really, really important, because that keeps you, it keeps you healthy from the inside out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Exercise is important. And for me, walking fits. I think that's one of the most important things that you have to realize about, your body type, your size, how well conditioned you are or how unconditioned you are, and start with something that you can do routinely. If it's getting up like Bryan does, get up in the morning, go boxing, hey, fine, that fits his style. For me, I like getting up, cup of coffee, out the door, walk 4 miles, get my heart rate up, and then increase from that point on. So you have to really find what your niche is, what you're comfortable with, and make sure that you can make a routine out of it.
You know what I love, guys, is we're talking about we're talking to the industry. We're talking to owners, we're talking to service advisors, we're talking to techs. And I love the idea. I don't think we've ever done a show to talk about, from your perspective, what do you do to keep your body in shape? And I don't want you to discount this episode. I don't want you to listen to it and say, I'm done listening to it. They're going to talk about health. Stop. The older you get, the more you start feeling the effects of how you ate and how you exercised and how you behaved and how you drank, and put all of that stuff together. And there's a point, Greg, and I know for you, for sure, me too, the grandkids, you want to be around as long as you possibly want to be around. There's a point where you start saying, I got to take care of me.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, there comes a point when you realize that, hey, I'm waking up with more aches and pains. Why is that? Am I slightly overweight, or am I overweight? What are my morning habits? What are my evening habits? What am I putting into my body? And I think if you really take a look at yourself, you should be changing. I mean, I've noticed, and Patty too, we've cut down our food intake incredibly. I say over COVID, man, we both ballooned up, because we just sat and ate and didn't do anything, and we were immobile, and it got us out of our habits. And now, for just the two of us, you would look in our refrigerator and think that we're kind of like starving ourselves to get to death. But the cupboard is.
Wait a minute. So the left vegetable drawer is full of kale, right?
Yeah. So, well, it's not far from it. I mean, we've got more healthier foods, but we even have less volume of food, which is something that is, really, really different. You got to get used to it. So I don't know.
I don't know about you, Bryan, but I find myself eating less. I mean, I used to always have a sandwich for lunch, and now it's a half. And it may sound crazy, but when we go out to dinner, and I may take liberties and find some comfort food from the menu because we've been eating so good all week that I just want to have, and I find myself making sure I don't eat all the comfort food. Now, it may sound a little wasteful, but I may take it home and maybe have another meal out of it. But I didn't think that I thought the calories would be wasted by eating it all because some of these restaurants really pour it on. You have the same thing?
Well, that's not even what it's not even the portion size as much as what's in it. And, I think back to, I was down in Key West about a month and a half ago, and I ordered some kind of a whitefish that they had. And, you're thinking, hey, whitefish, it's going to be healthy. And I mean, this thing it had more butter than it had fish. And when you start thinking about what's in your food, it's critical. You have to pay attention to what you're eating and what it's going to do to you. And I actually think back, and I go back quite a ways and look at, oh man, you talk about health. I was in the middle of a really nasty lawsuit. I had issues with the building that I was in, and I was just kind of in this wheel of chaos for a while, and wasn't working out, wasn't eating right, definitely drinking more than I should have. And remember going to the doctor, and this is probably 15 years ago now. Go to the doctor, and every possible thing that was on my blood chart, there was an issue with. And we think about how important it is to exercise, but for me, I think it's the stress deal as well. How do we deal with the stresses that we get every day? And my cholesterol, God, man, I was almost 2.5 times the limit that was going to be allowed, to the point that you're on medication. I mean, there was this list of things that they were going to do for me. And I remember looking at the doctor, and I said, hey doc, I'm going to tell you, I have not been taking care of myself at all. I'm not doing anything. And, why don't we come back to this in 6 months and talk about it again? Because obviously in 6 months, I'm not going to die, but I may, if everything still stays here, we know we got a problem. And immediately did kind of what Greg talked about, start walking, move from walking to running, and just started, I think I was 225 at the time, which for me is pretty heavy. And, I just started literally just starting to take care and looked a little bit at diet, started cutting out some of the, the processed carbohydrates. And yeah, I see somebody's talking about high processed food. Yeah, I took a lot of that stuff out. And, within 6 months, I had everything in what I would call a manageable level. A year later, I'd cut everything into half of what would be critical. And, it's just been a downward trend ever since. But the key is you have to take care of yourself, because and I think the first thing is you got to know where you are, and how many guys aren't even going to the doctor to get blood work.
What do you weigh now?
I'm down at I think 186 now. 186,
Cool.
187.
That's not a bad number. You what, like 6 foot?
6 foot tall. Yep.
Okay.
So
6 foot.
ideally
I
175 is what doctor tells me, but I don't think I'm getting there.
I guess. Hey, I want to thank Jamie Carlson, Mike Giblin, Matt Oler, Tracy. My daughter Tracy's on with us. Well, I think that's her job, right? Bill Nalu's with us. Hey, Bill, and Ryan Tunison. Thank you for your comments. Please share some of your own thoughts about our topic here today about getting healthy. The wake-up call is what you just said, Bryan. And if I don't care what age you are, let me just pick it. I'm not a doctor, Greg, but 40 up, you better start going for blood work if you're not going for annual physicals, because things can creep up on you no matter what age you're at. And Bryan's point was he worked his number. He worked it without really telling the doctor you were going to work it. And then you went for your second test and you probably came out with flying colors. Now, Greg, are you going to an annual physical?
I haven't gotten to an annual yet. It's pretty much every other year, and I have blood work done. In fact, I just had two workups completed, actually for insurance products. But both came out with flying colors. Good. I am one that does not eat salt or sugar. I've stayed away from that forever. I mean, added sugar, added salt, stuff like that. So my blood work came out really great. A little higher on the cholesterol that I would have liked to. And I have a slightly elevated heart rate, which, I've had all my life. So, I mean, I keep myself conditioned well. I know my body well enough that when I do have an issue, I can tell you where it's from. Like, it's the weirdest thing if I eat anything high sugar, like a bowl of ice cream now. Never used to be this way, but if I eat any kind of ice cream with instantly, I can feel my heart racing, and especially some of the sweeter pies, that kind of thing. High sugar, high fructose, man, it just sets me off like a rocket ship. So I know not to eat that, and I stay away, or I eat just a little bit of it. And one of the things that a good tip that I don't know how I learned this or where I learned this from, but to control your eating when you're out to a restaurant, the mental block that you have, and Carm, you alluded to, he says, well, I don't want that food to go to waste. Well, the thing is that once you decide to buy it, it's yours. So you're not wasting your money. You take it home. I mean, I know people who actually order their food and tell the wait staff to bring a to-go box, and they cut it in half and they put it away. Well, now I rarely eat the whole plate because it's just way too much, and I take it home, and it's much more enjoyable. I'm not full. The calorie count, I really don't count calories, but it's just a feeling that you get in what you eat. And to Ryan Tunison's point, I still will enjoy my cheesesteaks. I'm not giving up living to get on a diet. So Ryan, I'm still making my cheesesteaks, and that's my Friday night treat. So, but it's important to get over the mental humps. And I've fought weight all my life. I've growing up, I was up until 5th grade. I was the tallest kid, the biggest kid, and I weighed the most. And I think I may have weighed, I don't know, 165 when I was in 4th grade or something like that. And I was big. No, there's no question about it. And my weight now still, I'm 5'10", and I'm about 240. So to me, that's a larger number, but I haven't gained exceptionally over that for the last, I don't know, 20 years. I've gone up 20 pounds. A lot of it is from lack of, exercising, which is what, I'm correcting. And you get a little weak in the diet, and you go crazy on a couple of things. But for me, this has been my comfort zone, and, I'm okay. I mean, I feel great. I can walk, I can run, I can swim, I can play sports, I can do anything I want. And Bill Nalu, yes, Scrapple. You got to bring up Scrapple, right? Let me. I don't want to hog everything up, but COVID has changed me. I still cannot smell. It's been going on a year now, and what I smell is totally different than what you would expect to smell. And it's really with meats, cooked meats, grilled meats. There's a completely different taste. It's not really great. And that kind of pushes me away from eating too much to begin with.
Wow.
But yeah, overall, and again, this is your body makeup. You got to know your body. You got to know what you can and cannot eat, what you do, and really know yourself inside and out, so that you can, plan accordingly. So that's how I try and maintain health, just not from a diet or, it's an all-purpose situation.
So Carm, you said something interesting, and you mentioned the age 40 about blood work. And I'll tell you, I ran into my issue at age 33.
Wow.
And you start to think about that, and I think this pertains to our audience. So many of us as former technicians, we were up on our feet, we were moving front of the shop, back of the shop, under a car, up and down. And what do we do once we start to get comfortable in our business? We change our role. We either begin working on the front desk, or maybe we're working on the business a lot more. And that radical change was where it really got me. And that's, early 30s, and you push that up 5 years, and next thing you know, you've put on weight, you're inactive. In many cases, you're working 12, 15 hours a day. I mean, I can't tell you how many guys I talk to that are at their desk for 10 plus hours a day. And you want a walking health nightmare. That's what that is. And I think, when we look at our crowd, that's what we start to see.
Boy, I did that.
Yeah.
To your point, guys, anybody ever do Atkins? I remember going through the 2 weeks. I'm trying to remember the exact how it was. 2 weeks by eating, I don't know, 20 grams or less of carbs, and it was the hardest thing for an Italian guy to do who loved his desserts to go through that. But it was amazing. To your point, Greg, I think on the sugar. When I got rid of my sugar cravings, I had energy. I mean, I wasn't even exercising at the time because I was still traveling for corporate America. Maybe I should have had better disciplines, but I had so much energy just because of the sugar thing. And I don't know about you guys, is sugar addicting to you?
Big time.
I can't stand it.
That's my fight.
In fact, today I had a cup of coffee. I purchased a pack of coffee that had, I saw it on the shelf, natural honey and vanilla, so mixed into the grinds. And I thought, oh, let's try something tasty. It was Starbucks. It was all natural, nothing there. But as soon as I brewed it and I had a cup this morning, I went, oh my gosh! And I told Patty, I go, nah, I'm glad it was on the discount rack, and I think I gave it to my daughter. But that's because I don't eat sugar, or I don't really, not even a soda. I mean, I'm pretty disciplined on that stuff. As soon as I taste sugar, it's disgusting. It really is.
How did it work for you? What did you do to get to this point, Craig?
I slowly weaned it out. I don't know what the triggers were. I can't really recall. I think it was just that it's like smoking. I never smoked. I never even tried a cigarette. And it's just the mental thing of how much harm it can do, proven it can do harm. And it kind of gave me a negative, just this really bad thing. Like, okay, it's not good for me. It can lead to diabetes. Salt can do this, and even alcohol. I mean, there's limits. And it made me stop. And like I said, even butter on corn. I don't eat butter on corn anymore.
Really?
Yeah, really, no. And you'd be surprised how great it tastes without butter. It's really exceptional. Butter's just a lot of fat. I switched to more olive oil. I cook with olive oil every day.
Sure.
And I'll have a butter occasionally, but these are little things that I do, and I think everybody can do it. It's more, when I went to the doctor, he said, you might want to follow more of a Mediterranean diet, which is, more greens, less solid proteins, or not as many, not less meat, and you stick with more seafood occasionally. But it works for me, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, and I don't want to take I'm not regimented to a degree where, I'm living by the book on it, but it keeps in the back of your mind. And I've been through the Weight Watchers, and I don't know. I think I tried Atkins for maybe as long as you did, and you study these different things. But the problem is you get on a yo-yo. And I've seen a lot of shop owners that will do this, and there's a lot of groups. They get on these programs, and the 75 hard and the 90-day whatever it was, and all these things. They get you ramped up. And I'm not saying there's not a benefit to it, but man, how many people do you know in our lives that go this way and all of a sudden they crash? It's just like coming off of a sugar high, and then their body can't get back to a sensible situation. I mean, it's all about moderation. If you exercise, you can afford a couple more calories. If you don't exercise, then you have to cut back on the calories. I don't think it's hard science, or I don't think it's like it's hard to believe. But these are just simple things that you can do and should do. So.
Yeah. We've had Bryan a few comments about, or at least we've heard stress. Stress is a killer. I mean, if you're so full of stress, you're driving by a fast food place and you want a triple-decker hamburger, that looks like this. I mean, just like that, right? And I don't know if it's double cheese, triple pickles, or what. But that is probably tastes great. It's fulfilling. It hits a craving thing in you. There's a comfort level, but it's not good for you.
So one interesting thing, your body will produce cholesterol. It will do it on its own when you're highly stressed. And if you don't know that, the more stress you have, the more cholesterol you'll produce. And I mean, it's kind of it does it as like a pain reliever is what happens. And the only way I could ever find out of that scenario was to exercise out of it. So force the stress out through the exercise and push yourself. And like Greg said, I mean, there's a reason I'm in the boxing gym in the morning. I like to eat. I love food. And I don't drink soda pop. I don't drink coffee. Just not what I would call a high sugar person. But I love sugar. I mean, no question about it. If you throw some candies in my cupboard, I'm probably going to go chase them down and eat them. It's best that they're not in the house. But I make an attempt to not do that. But I love food. So if I'm not in a highly active, whether it's running, whether I have to do something that's high cardio, because I burn it off, and that's a big deal for me.
Guys, we talked about smoking here just a moment ago, and I know there's so many fewer smokers that we have in our world. Greg, Bryan, does anybody smoke who you work with?
I
I
have
have
one.
two employees.
One and
I
then
have
two.
one.
Okay. All right. And I guess that's really minimal, but again, that's another healthy thing that we shouldn't be putting in our body is smoke. I remember I quit in 1990, and so thankful that I did. And all you need to do, everyone, is just to go through a health scare, and I did. I did 9.5 years ago. I had a heart issue, and I was pretty close to not making it, and I didn't have open heart, but I had a stent or two put in, and it changes your life. And and the Mediterranean diet, Greg, that's all they talked to me about. And I had to be
Yeah.
on the treadmill for 2 months worth of post-operative stuff, and that's where it's too bad, guys, that you have to get near or have an issue for you to wake up. And I think it's important that we're talking about this stuff because we're not thinking about many of us are thinking of taking care of our people, but we're maybe not thinking enough about taking care of us and being
Right.
there for our families.
Well, I think one of the things if we talk about stress, there are very subtle ways that stress affects your body that you may not even realize it. I mean, for me, if I go through a period of stress, I actually break out in psoriasis. I'll have patches on my skin and especially in my scalp area where, I've been to the doctor and, he'll ask me, well, what's your day's been like? And I go, well, they haven't been easy. And I think this is probably the heart of COVID when we were running, lean and guys in and out. And there was a period of, you're just stressed and maybe overtired, all that culmination of everything. And sure enough, I'd have these patches and, we'd have to get that taken care of. And so you just don't know. You have to be, you have to be body aware. You really do
Yeah.
have to look at your, and look at your skin. Your skin's what, the number one organ? I
But
mean, it's the
here's
largest
your
organ.
point, Greg. I don't mean to interrupt you, but you got to be aware of what's going
Yeah.
on. There are signals, guys, that
Yep.
trust me, they happen.
And
And
I
you
and I
got to
was
pay attention to them.
and I was talking to you, Carm, before we started, and I was talking about the fact that I haven't used an alarm clock in 20 years.
Yeah.
And this is one way that I listen to my body. So I am regimented between 4 and 4:30. I just wake up, and I wake up, start my day. Now, if I'm not waking up at that time, there's absolutely no question in my mind something is going on. I'm either getting sick, I've pushed it too hard, maybe I'm stressed out, but there's absolutely no question that something isn't right. And if I need more sleep, I listen to it. I'm
Yeah.
going to take 2 more hours. I'm going to take 3, whatever it's going to be. Listen to what your body's doing. And if you have to push it, but remember, it's going to affect you somewhere. And if you're not taking care of your diet, you're not taking care of exercise, it's going to multiply. all the way through. And we were talking about diets, and you talked about the Atkins diet, and I've had a lot of friends using what's called the Whole30 recently. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that or not, but it's similar to Atkins, only it's more of a, they call it a paleo, I guess, but it's meat and vegetables essentially, and potatoes, and you're cutting out all of the the simple carbs out of your diet and the sugars. And in doing that, I've seen guys that are losing 15, 20 pounds in a month, and in good weight that doesn't come back on like that. And we talked about sugar. If you want to break your addiction to sugar, try that Whole30 and go eat a piece of candy after you do it, because it will taste, you will not enjoy the taste. And everything that has sugar in it, you'll taste as well. It's pretty amazing what happens when you remove it completely from your body.
So
and
it's
that's
called
my experience,
Whole30?
Bryan. Yeah.
Whole30.
Yep. Yeah. Once you get
Yeah,
rid of sugar, it becomes disgusting, So,
well,
and I find, I don't know about you, Bryan, but or most of us, I find that I become most stressed when I fail to make a decision to move forward in something, and it's that you wake up at 2:00 in the morning or 3:00 before you're normally due, and that starts the cycle of fatigue. And then if you continue to let it fester, it becomes more severe. And then it seems once you make that decision, you're kind of like back to normal. You feel good. You're out walking, running, boxing, swimming, whatever. You get back in the routine. So that's the interesting part. Like I said, it is awareness of yourself. So it's very important.
Our
Yeah,
life seems to be compact, compressed, focused, 90 miles an hour. If you have a day job, 9 to 5 and 8 to 4, it doesn't matter what it is. You bring a set of clothes, maybe you walk for lunch, maybe you go to the gym afterwards. It is, guys, nothing but self-discipline. You gotta wanna.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If you can't be comfortable being uncomfortable, you're not going to go far. And that's the big chunk of, when I talk about that Whole30, when you talk about starting exercise, the minute you cut the sugars out, you'll have, we'll say 3 to 5 days, it's gonna suck. You're gonna have headaches. Your bowels are not gonna, they're not gonna know what to do. Your body's gonna feel deprived. But somewhere between 5 and 6 days into it, it's almost like a switch turns on, and your eyes open up, and you've got energy that you didn't have before. And that's that sugar addiction. And I would bet you that if you haven't ever weaned off of it, most people don't know what that feels like. And
Right.
it's night and day, the difference, so
Well, sugar, isn't sugar like more addictive than heroin? I mean, it literally is a drug that's natural, but your body just gets addicted to it, where you have to have it, and getting off it is similar to what you're describing, Bryan. So sugar is bad. Plus the inflammation that it creates.
Oh,
There are certain foods that cause more inflammation than not, and you try to avoid them or minimize their use. So again, a lot of it comes down to just what you can eat. But sugar is bad. Not good at all.
yeah. And the other side of it, when you talk about that discomfort, exercise. I mean, the first time you're going to go walk 2 miles, you're going to feel it the next day, and your body's going to say, "Whoa, buddy, don't do this again. That sucked." And then you're going to want to relax, but you have to force yourself past those things. And and like I said, I like to eat, so I always want high, some decent cardio stuff to burn off what I have. But I mean, there's a lot of days, especially if your foot hurts, or you've got, I pulled something in this shoulder a couple days ago, and you try to get in the boxing ring and throw something, and the shoulder hurts, but you don't want to be there. So you have to push through those things, and that's that discomfort. You
So
have to be comfortable with that.
So Bryan, I love what I hear about your disciplines. Have you taken it to the team at work?
With the food, not so much. But as far
But
as the
have you
disciplines go,
encouraged your team to exercise, to get out
oh yeah,
and walk?
Yeah, we've done Tough Mudders together. We've, we flew the whole team to Vegas one time to go do a Tough Mudder together. We've done them local. I would say since COVID hit, it's been hard to put those things in place, and we still talk about it. We had a group of us that would run together, that would do other. A couple people would go to the gym together. So we definitely, as a team, try to put into it. I will say in the last year and a half, though, it's been tough.
When I think, Greg and Bryan, about what he just said about some team event, even if it's just walking, if it's going to one of these events where you climb through the trees, or even if you zip line or something like that, which ends up becoming exercise, yes. If we take our people to Vision, we close it down, we take them out for training, even if it's 2 or 3, even if it's half the shop. When we go zip lining with half the shop one weekend and half the next, or make it a family event, but you're encouraging, and the message to your people is, look, we exercised. Maybe you can continue this on your own, because that a healthy body brings a healthy mind to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we have one. My son-in-law is a keto person. He's very disciplined with it, and he's done very well with it. And I'm surprised how disciplined he is. And my son he has a different way. I mean, he meal plans, and he's held his weight well. He plays hockey afterwards. My nephew is constantly on the move, whether it's at work or at home. He's always doing projects. The guy, and he can eat anything and does. So he's no specific diet. My 2 new techs, they're younger. They do eat poorly. They know it, and we're trying to get them back, or get them to understand that health is important. And my son-in-law is actually taking the lead on that, because he gets irritated when they walk in with all kinds of fast foods and unhealthy stuff, and so we try. I don't preach, because I know what it's like to be preached at when in regards to weight and health and all that stuff. But we kind of give subtle hints. We used to be able to go to a run, a 5K, which local charity of ours, but because of COVID, that had stopped for the last 2 years. We hope to have it back this year. But it was a team event, and surprisingly, we came out pretty good with it. Of course, I wasn't running; I was doing the walk, but it's a lot of fun. So we try our best to keep up with that stuff. But again, it's not a preaching type thing. You can only subtly give hits. They watch what you eat, they watch what you do, that kind of stuff. So
a lot of it's modeling. A lot of it's just showing them what they do. And you talked about the 5K. We've run a few of those as well. And I get in trouble because they all say I'm too extreme. So they don't want to go, well, we don't want to go do exactly what you want to do, but to get them there to the event, it's team building. It's supporting each other. You're doing everything you can to make sure you all finish. And whether that was at our Tough Mudders, the 5Ks, I think we've done a 10K. You show up as a team and you leave as a team. And it's just, there's a whole lot to it. One of the things we talked about, cigarettes, we've talked about poor eating habits, but what about the energy drinks? Those giant cans that they buy in 22 or 28, maybe 40 ounces now. I don't know. I know that the cans are enormous. How many of those are our employees drinking per day?
I've never had one. What's in them? Sugar?
Caffeine and sugar.
The whole kitchen sink. It's
everything.
It's a list. Yeah. You look at that and it's like taurine, it's 18 different words, and I'm going,
right.
Call me crazy, but that just can't be, every single day, that can't be good for you.
The only natural ingredient in there was water.
And it's one thing. Somebody's got a bad night and they get one of these, but I had guys that are bringing 1 or 2 a day. Take the cost out and just look at the product and what you're putting in your body. That can't be good for you.
Yeah.
It's got to be as expensive as a $5 Starbucks cappuccino latte with a double shot. I go into a Starbucks, and not locally, but when I when I travel, say at an airport, and all I want is a black cup of coffee, and I'm behind the line of people that are ordering these, these storybook cups of coffee, and they're popping down $6 or $7. And I said, I just saved $5 because I never got that far into the. And I don't know if it's habit, if it's the Me Too thing. They can drink it, I can drink it thing. But it's unbelievable what people put in their bodies or pay for. And you're so right about that. Hours of sleep, guys. I want to ask about hours of sleep. Bryan, you brought it up. I get about 6, but to your point, Bryan, when I need more, my body tells me I need more. And so I listen to it, but I usually average 6. How about you, Greg?
I'm about 6.5, 7. I'll try to be in bed by 9, maybe earlier, and the alarm for me goes off at 4:45. So that's how much time I've got.
Greg, if you didn't have the alarm, would you still get up?
Yeah, I probably would. Yeah, I used to. Bryan, he doesn't use it. I started with it because I don't. I wanted to try to make the gym on time, so I think, well, let me get used to it, and I'm usually up before the alarm goes off. It's just one of them things, but that's my backup, and I've been comfortable with it.
Well, guys, I know we didn't change the world, and none of us are qualified with an MD or a PhD after our names to say that we can tell people what to do. But I do know that our industry loves to listen to its peers and learn from each other. And that's what this was. And if I could grow up and be anything like Bryan and Greg and how they do things, then that's what I want to do. Now, but Greg, there's one final thing that I have to ask you. And that would be, I know there's a lot of sugar in bourbon. Yeah, I think there is. At least I read that somewhere.
I don't know
and
if there is or
occasionally,
not. It's one of the purest things you can drink.
Okay, thank you. Great. Well, then I won't quit. That's all I wanted to know.
I think it's better than if you're going to have a drink. When you get those mixed drinks and cocktails and all that, there's a ton. The mixers are full of sugar. Wine does have sugar to it.
Sure.
But you can. It's a natural situation with bourbon and stuff. I don't believe there is any sugar, or at least I don't think so.
It happens naturally somehow.
Yeah.
It's pure.
Well, before it
It's
ferments.
pure. What's that?
Yeah.
It's there before it ferments. It's a byproduct of the sugar.
Yeah.
No matter how you look at it.
You're going to, like I said, I'm not stopping my life around a diet. I'm going to be healthy because I think that gives me a little bit of a mental health situation.
Oh boy, yeah. Yeah, you talk about a stress buster, right? A stress buster right there.
A stress buster. That's all.
And
believe me, what's and let me profess right here. Let me announce that you'll see me with a Friday cheers, and that may be the only 1 or 2 drinks I have all week.
Okay.
So
cool.
I mean, I don't really am.
I know, but if we see that picture every week, all we think about is that you stumble home every night.
Well, and on that piece, the question really begs, what are we doing for our mental piece as well, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, and for some it might be that single cocktail, but what do we do that just kind of brings you down? And for some it's journaling. What do we do that decompresses that mind? And that's another just a key aspect, because Greg, you mentioned this a few minutes ago. When you wake up at 2:30 in the morning, and when I was in the middle of, I mean, we can talk about this some other time, but I was in the middle of a 10-year lawsuit, and there were times I would wake up at 1:32 in the morning and I was completely awake. And the only way I could pull that stress back out was either prayer or just literally sitting down with my journal and just writing out what was happening, what I could do about it, and trying to find some solution, although there really wasn't one, and getting it all out to try and get back to sleep. But that's that stress again.
Yeah, that's a tough one right there. There's another thing you just talked about. You talk about keeping your devices on, and how when do you get off of your devices before you go to bed? I mean, there's timing and your body rhythm and light within the rooms. I mean, people go to sleep with their TVs on. with television on, or they're watching their devices. Those kind of things actually keep you stimulated longer, so you don't get the restful sleep. And when you don't get that restful sleep, it can cascade into a poor eating habit, more stress, less sleep. Before you know it, you're pretty broken.
Yeah, I know. Actually, TV puts me to sleep, guys. And even though you may have science that says I'm actually awake while I'm sleeping, I don't think so. I want to give a plug to Bryan. Thank you, Matt, for reminding us. Bryan is presenting 2 days on communications and leadership up in the Great Northwest. It's coming soon. Throw in a plug for Bryan. Well, I just did. And so tell us who can go, and you have a close group that you're working with, right?
I do. This is a pilot, but I would definitely, if anybody had interest, I'd say reach out to our Northwest Auto Care Alliance, and we can get you a seat. It's over in the Spokane area, 2 days. We're going to be going over leadership, really leadership and communication, and that communication is how we speak with employees, how we speak to ourselves, how we speak to external customers as well, and really how we situationally make decisions. And we're going to go over that. One of the things I do a lot differently is I look at things through an experiential model. So anything that we do comes down to working with a team back to presenting to the group. And it's activities, it's all things designed to jar your brain so that you're taking the information away. I'm not a big fan of I'm going to talk to you. I might give information, but I want communication and I want development. And the only way I see that is if you do something. So I do things a little differently.
All right. I'm happy for you. It's something that I know will be perfect. And maybe next month, this is what we need to talk about. But we'll talk about it. Okay. We'll find out, because I'm going to have you back next month. We're going to bring the power panel back, and we'll do something just as wonderful as today was. I want to thank Nathan Adcock from Scotland, who seems to always join us when we do a live or a Facebook show. So thank you so much for being here, Nathan. Worldwide audience today, isn't that great? Greg Buckley, CEO of the 50-year young Buckley's Auto Care, Wilmington, Delaware, and Bryan Rocky Kelley, owner of Valley Automotive Electric, Covington, Washington. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, Carm.
Thank you, guys.